Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Zach, and here we talk about overlanding, gear, builds, DIY, all sorts of stuff related to modifying your vehicles. Now, I know a lot of you out there are itching to hear the results on the lightweight 35s video. Don't worry, I'm planning to post that this Thursday, so stay tuned for that. But on the topic of 35s, this video is one that's been highly anticipated. So a lot of you out there know that if you're trying to run 35s, there's a lot that you need to do, and I have a different video, and I'll link that up above, that talks about a lot of the things I've done over the years, or at least over the last year or so of having my 35s to really try and fit these the best that I can. But unfortunately, there's a couple things that are pretty difficult to do yourself without sort of manufacturing something pretty sophisticated, which isn't impossible. Some of you out there are up for the challenge DIY-wise. But this kit I think is kind of perfect. So when I was visiting C4, I went and visited C4 for about a week last year in 2023 around mid-May, and I got one of their prototype fender liner kits, and I was pretty excited about this. So what it does is it allows you to delete the fender liner and also raise your interior fender liner, because for some of you out there that really ride your rigs hard, or some of you that are really trying to maximize your articulation on your suspension, you will find that your 35s are too tall and they will jam up inside of your fender liners. And so this is a problem. Some of you also with 35s may have noticed that if you don't trim your fenders, you actually will rub on those fenders and you can catch clips and bolts and other things with the tread of your tire, and that becomes a problem as well. So that's why I've been so excited about this kit, because it allows you to address a lot of the issues that you have to with 35s. And I think a lot of you are going to really like this product. Not to mention, they actually priced it at a pretty good price point. I was honestly a little surprised. I thought it was going to be more expensive, and maybe it's going to be in the future. But not to mention, right now, until the end of February, they're running a 15% off sale on this kit, which also just like blows my mind. I feel like there's so many people that are in heavy anticipation of this kit that it would sell regardless. But yeah, there's a limited time sale going on. I'll have them linked down below. But first of all, let's kind of jump into an unboxing here. Unfortunately, my audio cut out, so I'll try and dub this over a bit with a little bit of a voiceover. But we're first gonna look at the products, and then I'll show you how we go ahead and install them on the vehicle. So the nice thing is when you're going to buy this kit, you can purchase it in a number of configurations. You can purchase just the body mount relocation, you can purchase just the fender liners, or you can purchase the entire thing. And they include, on top of all of these parts, they include a nice stick-on vinyl template that allows you to cut your fenders out nicely. So there's lots of different components to this kit, and I really like it. And so consider checking it out. Like I said, 15% off. I'll have everything linked down below, but let's jump into that unboxing. So jumping into all of these parts here, we've got these caps, and these go at the bottom to secure the actual fenders to your body of your vehicle. When we do this kit, we have to cut a couple of different brackets, and so these will be placed into that spot with little self-tappers. These brackets are going to connect to the hinges on your passenger and driver doors. Notice they're labeled here, and these are going to help to hold in your actual fender liners. And then these two brackets, I'm actually not entirely sure what they're for. I think they might be used for relocating something. If I remember correctly, I still have these on hand. But once you start assembling this, you may discover what that is for. We've got two parts for each side for the actual fender liners, and then this one part that kind of like meshes the two together. And that's going to be up on top of the fender liners, sort of hidden away. You'll put two bolts in on each side of the fender liner part. We have a lot of hardware here. We have some washers, some locking washers, and then a couple of plates for labeling them as being made by C4. Most of this hardware is likely to probably corrode because it's lighter weight, and so you could consider using any sort of blue Loctite on these, or you could consider using anti-seize. Since stainless steel hardware oftentimes can corrode and it's softer, you may consider using anti-seize. I believe I did, but that's mainly because I live in the Rust Belt. So yeah, we've got all this hardware laid out here. Maybe I was saying something profound when I first recorded this audio, but yeah, let's move on to actually talking about getting these like vinyl stickers placed on your vehicle. So part of this is really going to be actually more just sort of an art form rather than needing to get it perfect. What you're trying to do is you're trying to match some of the body lines here, and you can see how the sticker sticks right on top of this flare. So there's somewhat of a way to follow the OEM body lines to get this placed on nicely. But at the same time, all we're trying to do here is trim this out semi-uniformly on both sides, and that's what helps this. If you're really, stuck to and you wouldn't want to draw your own line here on painter's tape, you'll especially like this template. But I don't think you necessarily need to get this perfect, so don't really stress about it. One thing to note here is you're going to be cutting off that plastic flare, which has a lot of this mounting hardware for your inner fender liner, so that's partially why we're replacing the fender liner to begin with. So this kit is helping you with a fender liner, but it's also helping you with mounting everything after you trim out your fenders, because a lot of the mounting system on your fenders is shared with your fender liner and such. They kind of go hand in hand. So we're going to start cutting a lot of that out. But this vinyl sticker that you put on here, it's really handy, and it's one way to keep it consistent on both sides of the rig. Funny enough, this was actually one of the first times I used an angle grinder by myself, and I guess it's something in the welding space where they typically remove the guards because they're able to work with the disc a lot more comfortably. So I was just borrowing the C4 owner's grinder here to do this job since I didn't have one of my own packed when I visited C4. When I use a grinder at home, I definitely use the guard on it because I'm not a pro like these guys. But I was careful, and they gave me these nice big safety gloves, and so I kind of just went to town because I wanted to get this kit installed. Notice here that when you cut the plastic flare, there's metal fender right behind it. So as we cut along here, I'm being very careful to not touch the plastic flare with the angle grinder, and I'm also simultaneously trying to cut the metal paneling behind it flush or even hidden more than the flare, so that when you look at the vehicle from the side, it doesn't look bad. Like I'll mention here in a little bit though, unfortunately, or fortunately, most 4.5-inch wheel angle grinders, that little screw-on nut that holds the cutting wheel in place, it's actually like the perfect depth for rubbing on this plastic flare, so you really have to take your time. But notice here, if this is my first time, I'm really not doing too bad of a job. Another thing to note is, one thing they taught me is, it's important you hold an angle grinder correctly, so note how the angle grinder wheel spins as you hold the angle grinder. But if you're uncomfortable with doing any of this, or you don't feel like you're going to do a safe job, just have an off-road shop and install this for you, because for a trained veteran with an angle grinder, this kit will be no problem. And once you have this all cut up and it's looking nice, at least as far as your lines go, you can then buy what's called a flap disc, which is sort of like a sandpaper wheel for an angle grinder. And this is how you can really clean this up nice and get those edges looking nice and clean. So here, I didn't really show that, but you can fine tune that curve a lot better using a flap disc.
Okay, so I had this tape on here. It's kind of like a vinyl sticker that they provide for the template to cut out, and it kind of follows, you can see in this bend, it kind of follows this line, but not so much. Great thing about it is it uses this body line and continues it. So I've kind of done a rough cutout right now. The plastic and the metal both need to be smoothed out, like you can see up in here. This isn't very nice looking. But the tricky part is most cut-off wheels on a grinder, the chuck that mounts to it will rub on this plastic out here and melt it. So you have to be very careful that you don't ruin that outside piece of plastic. Or I guess you could remove it if you wanted to before cutting the metal, but it's a nice template for cutting the metal. Anyway, got all that cut away, got the inner fender liner removed. We got to remove this piece of plastic right here, but overall, I had already done the pinch welds, so just ever so slightly cut them, not too deep, so you put a hole in your pinch weld and then you can hammer it over in sections. Might have to do some more clearancing, but so far got some of that done. Okay, so I want to show this piece. This is like a secondary seal or something to the area where the door hinges are, under or behind the quarter panel. There's two sort of circular clips that you can't remove that I just broke right now. Seem to work okay. The one on the bottom is like this long, skinny clip. You can see it right there. You just pinch on the sides of it with a needle nose, and that seems to work okay. Right there. So now we have access to the wheel well area, which is important because we're going to loosen these two bolts just ever so slightly so we can sneak our fender liner bracket behind them. All right, so once we get this plastic piece removed in here, we're going to grab the bracket that says driver. We're going to loosen this top nut here, we're going to loosen this top bolt here and just slide it in, and then it will rotate down and just lay on top of that lower bolt. So got that. Now we're just going to reach in here, tighten this up. This bolt is a 12 millimeter. One thing I will note is after you've cut this can get kind of sharp, so be careful with your hands and maybe smooth all this out before actually putting in any of these brackets. Okay, so just going to kind of talk you through the rest of the brackets that are included here. So these two will connect the two pieces of the fender liner kit. Sorry, this will actually secure the front fender or quarter panel to the actual vehicle. This is going to be sort of optional, but we'll put that in sort of towards the end. And then we've got to find this spot on the body to bolt and this spot on the body to bolt, and I'm going to show you where those are. So on both sides of the vehicle, there's this little plastic clip. We're going to remove this and use this hole to put a bolt through with a flange nut and washer on the other side. This little module or sensor or whatever this thing is going to probably need to be relocated, but we'll see what we have to do. Up front here, this is the hole we're going to use for the front of the fender liner kit, and that we don't have to drill. There's space to drill a second hole if we want, but shouldn't probably be necessary for structural support. If we come over to the passenger side, similar thing. We got the spot here. There's nothing up here that's in the way. We're going to use this clip hole here, and then we will use this hole for that front bolt. So should have everything basically ready. Now we just need to start mounting it up. Okay, so I got the side with the air intake kind of started first because it's a little bit more important. So this side, the bracket, lands almost perfectly, but to line it up, it's semi-pliable. So I kind of moved it a little just to get that bolt started, and then routed the fender liner up through there. You can see the back of the flange bolt. The flange bolt's a 1/2 with a washer, and I tightened that down all the way. I have the C4 dual battery tray, and so I had to remove that in order to get access to that spot, but that didn't take too long. And so now that that's all tightened up and ready to go, I'm going to put the bracket up there so I can attach the next piece and lay it inside. So just wanted to give a little update. Let's keep on moving. So before I get too far into installing the driver's side here, I just want to show that there's about 10 feet of this edging material included in the kit, and you primarily just put it on the outside edge where it will touch the fender rather than the inside sheet metal. But they recommend you put this little strip here kind of near the pinch welds on the firewall as well. But just want to show that you're going to do that on both sides. All right, well, we got the liner in on both sides. Took a fair amount of work and trimming, but the wheel well cutout I think looks pretty good. We've got so much more clearance back here compared to before, and I had to remove the ARB twin compressor bracket on the driver's side that I have from Rago Fabrication, because those spots where there's a bolt right up here and there's a clip holding that little module are very hard to access with it wide open. So you're definitely going to want to remove whatever you have there. If it's a power trays, a Rago Fabrication ARB twin bracket, or whatever else. But this looks really good. In spots here, the pinch weld sort of got in the way, so I had to hammer this a bit more. I'm probably going to come back in here and try and spray in some sort of liner spray. I don't really know what I'll use, but this through here I used sort of a Flex Seal type thick rubberized coating. Maybe I'll use that for inside of here as well.
All right, well, that's going to be a wrap for this video. As you're probably noticing at this point, I don't have those small little tapped in caps at the bottom that hold my fenders. And you'll notice in some photos and video that the fenders actually flare a little bit out at the bottoms. Thankfully, my doors don't rub on these at the moment, and it hasn't been a huge issue because the fender liners kind of pinch them in place somewhat. But I really need to get those caps installed. I was just holding off because I didn't know if I was going to end up needing to tub or anything like that. So the other thing I wasn't able to get when I visited C4 was the actual body mount relocation bracket. And this is something I need to do as well, because if you've seen in some of my other 35s videos, my body mount chop is pretty rusty and my tires rub on it. And so that's another thing that I need to address still. And I will likely be getting that body mount relocation bracket as well, so I can get that installed. So those are just sort of the last loose ends I wanted to tie up. Again, all 3 different options of the kit are linked down below, whether you want just the bracket, just the fender liner kit, or the whole thing. They're running a 15% off sale through the end of February, so really take advantage of that. And I don't know how many supplies they have, or they'll stop the sale if the supplies run out. I don't know how they're going to do all of those sorts of things. So if you really have been waiting for this kit, jump down in the description and quick get it, because I don't know how long or how many supplies they have. And there's been a lot of hype around this kit. So, all right, well, thank you so much. Like always, if you want to get any other C4 products, I do have a discount code with them. It's OVLDENG. I've been a big supporter of C4, and I bought a lot of products from them before they were willing to have me as an ambassador. So I really believe in their stuff. It's hard to beat up because it's so dang strong, and they really do a great job developing products. So with that being said, thank you C4 for supporting me. I really hope this kit kind of goes gangbusters, because it sounds like so many people are looking for a solution like this. And yeah, thank you everyone for supporting me in these videos. Like I said, a video coming Thursday, and a lot more videos coming in 2024. All right, appreciate your support. I'll catch you all in the next video.